What seems to have started as fun and games is now turning into something quite serious. Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury seem pretty bent on taking each other on in an epic fight being called the Clash of the Titans. The two heavyweight champions recently announced their plans of a hybrid fight, possibly taking place in Africa in the coming year. Keep watching this video as we're about to give you the latest on what's starting to look like the fight of the decade. First up, sharing a ring before the fight. Apart from being a monstrous striker, Ngannou is a really smart guy. He was sitting ringside keeping a close eye on the English boxer as he destroyed Dillian Whyte in the 6th round of their grand matchup. But what Fury did next not only shocked the entire world, but also seemed to have caught the UFC heavyweight champion by surprise. After winning the bout, Fury brought Ngannou inside the ring and discussed the possibility of a future fight. It was almost like he was promoting the fight, if you ask us. Anyway, Ngannou was a bit shocked but slowly caught on afterwards and said something along the lines of how the fight will happen in the near future. And while both fighters are pretty eager to settle scores inside the ring or octagon, we're glad there's a good touch of reality in their judgments. Ngannou was quick to acknowledge how things will take time before they can start to plan something a bit more concrete. He talked about the entire contract situation and their promotions. Still, both the fighters are really confident about something happening in 2023. Whenever it happens, it's going to be huge. Just sharing a ring before an actual fight had everyone going nuts. Imagine how things would be when both of them were actually gloved up. Next, an ultimatum. When you're a champion of the biggest MMA promotion of the world, you can afford dropping an ultimatum every now and then. Remember that whole contract issue Ngannou had with the UFC? Well, that's not going to be a concern for too long. Now, Ngannou did already fight out his contract earlier this year in January when he defeated his rival heavyweight Cyril Gane at UFC 270. That win helped Ngannou activate the championship clause of his contract, meaning he'd be free to do pretty much anything in his interest come December 2023. The Predator has been dropping some hints about re-signing with the UFC though, but only on the condition that the UFC helps him co-promote his fight against boxing legend Tyson Fury. If you were to ask us, we'd say that the UFC has sort of opened up to the idea of their heavyweight champion taking on his equal in the boxing world, but it hasn't exactly been like the whole McGregor-Mayweather saga if you think about it. After all, Dana White is a businessman, and if he saw a really good opportunity, wouldn't he have already started milking the cow? But regardless of all that, the UFC's silence hasn't really made a big difference to Ngannou's future endeavors. The Nigerian champion has openly expressed that if the UFC refuses to help him promote his fight, or in the worst case scenario, stop him from fighting Fury, then he'd just have to say goodbye to the promotion. And honestly speaking, it's a really well-timed ultimatum. The ball is pretty much in the heavyweight's court at this point in time. He's done a lot for the UFC, and it also helps when you're literally an undefeated monster in your division. But we also need to look at what this fight will mean for Ngannou. It's going to be the payday of his lifetime. He'll probably make millions, more money than he'll ever make fighting in the UFC. So, at the end of the day, Francis holds all the power in this bargain. It's just a matter of time. He's played his moves exceptionally well, and now everyone is waiting anxiously for Dana's response. Don't know about you guys, but we can't wait to see this happen. Next up, a KO warning. Even though the Gypsy King has officially retired from the world of boxing, he isn't short on confidence. Just recently, he issued a KO warning to the UFC's knockout artist, and much of his confidence came from that uppercut he delivered to Dillian Whyte in his last fight. Fury claimed that the uppercut would be enough to knock out any man on this planet. Bring the most skilled fighter in the world, and he'll get slept by that uppercut. 100%, it would knock out any man. In other words, what Fury was trying to say is that Francis Ngannou is no match for his uppercuts. Now, honestly speaking, it was a pretty devastating blow. The sound it made, the way it rocked Dillian, it was just pure destruction. But that's nothing new for Ngannou. He's used to all that. And here's something that might rock your world a little, Fury. Ngannou isn't just used to vicious uppercuts and blows, he's used to devilish leg kicks enough to snap bones, submissions enough to squeeze all the oxygen out of your lungs. So it might take a bit more than just an uppercut to issue a KO warning. But still, we're not going to take anything away from Tyson. He is literally one of the greatest heavyweights of our generation. He's a boxer who made it to the top on his talent and hard work alone. If there's any guy in the fight world who can give Ngannou a run for his money, it has to be the Gypsy King. Now we have a humble yet confident approach. Unlike the typical UFC, Ngannou doesn't think twice before running down his opponent, whether that's verbally or physically. The Nigerian Nigerian has been particularly humble about how things might play out. He's confident, there's no doubt about it. The Predator believes he has enough knockout power to deal with the 6'9" world heavyweight boxing champion, but that certainly doesn't mean he's taking it easy. Talking to the media, Ngannou acknowledged it isn't going to be an easy task, but someone has to do the dirty work, and who better to do it than him? Honestly speaking, we're impressed with how the UFC champion has been moving forward with things, and since the McGregor versus Mayweather fight is the only real benchmark we have when it comes to cross-promotion fights, there's a massive difference between the mutual respect these guys have for each other. McGregor and Mayweather were just focused on attracting more eyes to the fight because, well, more eyes means more money. But this time around, the fight is gaining a lot of hype naturally because it's an amazing matchup. You have two men who could literally beat anyone to pulp getting ready to square off in a bout. Anyway, Ngannou's humble yet confident approach might actually do wonders for him when it comes to the actual night of action. Guess we'll just have to wait and see. Next up, ridiculous odds. Odd makers are supposed to be odd, like it's literally in their job title. But when it comes to the Ngannou versus Fury fight, they've done a ridiculous job at scoring the fight. Odd makers have placed Tyson Fury as the favorite with a 94% chance of winning the fight. Yep, you heard that right. Fury has a 94% chance of winning against the UFC heavyweight champion. Honestly speaking, the odds make no sense. It's probably to gather more bets and ultimately make a ton of cash. But at the end of the day, we still don't know anything about the fight. We don't know where it's going to happen. We don't know when it's going to happen. We have no idea what the rules will be. Like, imagine if all of a sudden Fury agreed to fight MMA style. It's obviously not going to happen, but just imagine for a second. Would the fight still be 94% in favor of Tyson Fury? Anyway, Ngannou has handled the ridiculous odds ridiculously well. He said that it isn't the first time people have placed him as an underdog in a fight. He's used to it and he'll continue to work hard to prove everyone wrong. But at the end of the day, how oddmakers score the fight has nothing to do with him. He couldn't care less. Lastly, hybrid rules. Speaking of hybrid rules, the Predator did mention that they've been thinking of maybe going with MMA gloves, including the possibility of being barefoot. And it does sort of level the playing field. If Ngannou is willing to step inside the boxing ring, Tyson Fury should be open to fighting with either MMA gloves or barefoot, or even both for that matter. But that's the most which has been discussed about the rules so far. We're still waiting to hear more about how match officials can possibly make it a fair fight. That's it from our side, folks. So what do you think? Are we going to see the clash of the Titans happen sometime next year? If so, do you think Ngannou actually has what it takes to take on such a mighty force like the Gypsy King? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Remember, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more exciting videos in the future. Thanks for watching and see you next time.